Imagine having your own private AI employee that runs 24/7 completely for free. That's right, for free. You don't have to spend a dime on API costs to Anthropic or OpenAI. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, over the past few months, I have been having a ton of fun working with real businesses to build AI agents for them. And one of the biggest things that I see them doing wrong is spending money unnecessarily to Anthropic and OpenAI on models when they have relatively simple AI tasks that are automated. People are bleeding money to these companies when they don't know that there's free alternatives available. So today, that's exactly what I'm going to show you. In this video, we're going to be connecting the OpenClaw framework to Ollama to give you access to powerful open source AI models that are completely private on your computer for free. By the end of this video, you're going to have a private 24/7 AI employee running entirely on your own terms. Let's get into the build. The first thing we're going to do here is go to OpenLlama's website. Now, this is, as it says, the easiest way to build with open models. Most people don't even know that open models exist. You can download the entire AI agent directly onto your computer and run it completely for free. Now, while there is a paid plan available, for most people, the free plan is going to give you everything you need to run these open source models. Ollama is just a way to actually connect that to OpenClaw so you can turn your AI LLM into an AI agent. If you're not familiar with what the difference between an LLM and an AI agent is, think of an LLM as the brain of the AI. It can think. This is what is most common with chatbots, where you send a message, it talks to the LLM generates a response, and then that's the entire interaction. With an agent, you're actually giving the AI LLM the ability to stay online 24/7 and actually interface with things in the real world. Think of it like Jarvis being the LLM, but Jarvis powering the Iron Man suit being the agent. Agents are basically a way to actually take an LLM and make it supercharged and give it the ability to actually do things. All you have to do to get started is hit the download button in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and that's going to download Ollama. This is going to be the place where you're going to actually load your AI models into and where we'll eventually connect OpenClaw to, so you can connect the free open source models to OpenClaw to get an AI agent that runs 24/7 on your computer. Now, while it's downloading, we can actually go and choose our open source model. So all we have to do here is go to the models in the top left-hand corner of the screen, and we're going to see a bunch of different models. And it's important to know what the difference is between these because obviously we want to set this up for free. So anything that says cloud typically is going to be a model that's going to probably have some sort of API key that you're going to need to provide to get it to actually work. And that's because a lot of models actually have crazy high parameters if it's actually a cloud model. That's why when using a tool like Gemini or ChatGPT or any of those, you need to be connected to the internet. Having the app actually have the entire model on it means that it's going to have a lot more data and it's going to use a lot less consistent token use. It's a whole thing. But I did want to highlight this because if at any point in the future you do want to upgrade, the ability to swap your model out is actually really easy. Just know that depending on the model you select, you may have to pay in the future. But for the ones we're doing today, it is going to be completely open source and free. So for the open source model we're going to choose today, we're going to go with Qwen 3.5. Now Josh, I hear you say, you just told me that cloud means I have to pay. Why are you choosing a model in the cloud section? Well, Qwen 3.5 is actually a family of models, and not all of them are cloud-based. If we scroll down here, we can see the list of all of the models here, and only these two at the bottom here are actually cloud models. The rest of them are all of the different models that are completely open source, and you can actually see what the size and usage is for the actual tokens. You can also see the context window here and what they take as inputs, either text or image in this case. Now, all of these models that you're seeing here are free and open source, but the one thing we do want to consider is what kind of strain is this going to have on our computer. Remember, we're not just talking to an interface that's going to be, talking to a computer somewhere in some AI data center. We're going to be doing and hosting this completely on our computer, which means that the memory usage is going to be a real impact because we're going to be running this AI model. That basically means if you don't have a beefy computer, you're probably not going to be able to run the beefiest AI model. That being said, depending on how good of a computer you have, you'll have the different options here to choose from. Now these are all Qwen 3.5, but as you can see here, we have latest 8 bil, 2 bil, 4 bil, and all of them have a different size. So depending on how much usage we're going to get, you're going to see 81 gigabytes for 122 billion. That's probably a little much. We're going to keep it nice and simple today, but you can choose whichever one you want. Personally, for this video, I'm going to go with Qwen 3.5, 0.8 billion, but I mean, that basically means that it's not going to be the smartest model, but it also means it'll be the smallest. So if you have a bit of a beefier computer and can run a better model, definitely choose a model with more context and more parameters, and you're going to get smarter results. This model might be a bit simpler, but that's okay. We're just showing you how to actually get this all set up. If you are curious about how a specific AI model performs, there are benchmarks down here that compare it to the top AI models that you're going to be paying for typically. So if you scroll through here, you can see all of the different things, including GPT 5.2, Opus, compared to the ones you're looking at, just so that you get an idea of how your open source free model is going to compare to some of the top ones in the business. Once your Ollama download is done, you're going to see that it's going to look something like this. It's going to be a very simple interface with new chat, launch, and settings. We're going to go into settings, and right now we can see that I've actually gone ahead and disabled cloud because we don't want to enable any cloud models and we don't want to have any web search. Depending on what you want your AI model to do, you may have to enable this. And things like exposing Ollama to the network, allowing other devices and services to access Ollama, again, is entirely dependent on the way that you want your AI model to actually work. If you want your AI model to be able to browse the web, if you want your AI model to be able to access other devices on your local network, it's entirely up to you. There's just a few settings here that you actually can change to make that possible. The most important, though, is the context length. Now, this is actually what determines how much of the local conversation your LLMs can remember. Now, by default, it's set to 4K, which is fairly small. So if you want an AI model that's going to start to remember all of the conversations you've had, things like that, obviously increasing the context length is going to make it so that it has the increased capacity to remember and generate those responses. But again, because we're all running it locally, it's going to be harder in your computer. So it's entirely up to you. For most people, I would say feel out your AI, chat with it, see what it remembers, and if you find it's lacking in a few areas, increasing the context length and trying a model with maybe more parameters is going to give you the sweet spot of finding exactly the AI model that you're going to want to have while not having to pay anything. Now, if I wanted to, I can go to Ollama here and click on either Gemma 4 or Qwen 3.6. But we don't want to do that. We want to load that new open source model that we just found into Ollama so we can actually talk with it. Once Ollama is downloaded and running, make sure it's open and open your command prompt or your terminal. And we're going to actually go ahead and take this Ollama run Qwen and we're going to actually paste it into here. I'm just going to make that my color. We're going to paste that in and we're going to hit enter. Now, as soon as we paste that into our terminal or our command prompt and hit enter here, we're going to see that it's going to download the entire LLM. Yes, it's downloading the entire model. Because this is run locally, we're not going to have any external cloud talking. Like, you could run this offline, talking to your AI agent with no internet. It just works. And this is part of the reason why it runs completely for free, is because it's not communicating with any LLM that's in the cloud. It's communicating with one that's set up on our computer. And as we can see here, it's asked us to send a message. We could say, so we'll click into here and we can send a message. What country is above the USA? And we can see here the actual request being analyzed. We can see the knowledge that's being retrieved. It's going through and it's thinking about everything. This is the full model here, and it's looking at this. And okay, let's see what the answer gives us. It's really second guessing itself here. Very interesting. So it's going to say, okay, well, the UK is north of the USA. Oh, very interesting. I didn't specify what country was above the USA, like directly. I just said what country is above the USA, and it's thinking about all the possibilities that are there. Okay, and it thinks the answer for the country that's above the US is United Kingdom, because the UK is north of the US, so technically speaking, the UK is above the US. It's not technically wrong, but again, this is just entirely based on the model that I've selected. If you chose a model that had higher parameters, if we can see here, this has how many parameters? 873 million. If you chose one that had higher parameters, such as the Qwen 3.5 with 9B, if we click onto that one here, that one has 10 billion parameters, so almost 10 times the number. You get the idea. The more parameters that your AI model has, the smarter it's going to be. So if you want to have an AI agent that runs autonomously without you having to pay for anything and you just want it to work, you have to have a beefy computer that's going to be able to handle the entirety of the context that the AI model is programmed with, all of the parameters and how it's set up. But at the end of the day, we have our AI agent running in our command prompt. So how do we actually connect this to OpenClaw? Well, for that, we actually need to go back to our Ollama program here, and if we click on our models, we can now see that there's a new model available that we don't need to download. And if we select it here, we can see that this now becomes the interface. So instead of having to communicate with it through the terminal, we can just get rid of the terminal. If I make this bigger here, this just becomes our model. What country has a maple leaf in the flag? And I hit enter on that. We can see that the model is actually Qwen 3.5 with 0.8 bill. It's the same thing that we just did in the command prompt, but it's now in the Ollama interface. So Ollama effectively is the interface for communicating with your locally hosted AI agent. So now that we've got this agent loaded into Ollama, but wait, it isn't an agent quite yet. Like I mentioned before, it's just the brain right now. It can't actually touch anything, it can't search anything up. And this is where the OpenClaw framework comes into play. Right now, we have an LLM running locally on our computer, and we don't have to ever pay for it. That's all well and good. But if we want this AI to become an agent and work 24/7 autonomously without us having to prompt it, we need to actually give it a framework that allows it to do that. And OpenClaw is the #1 pick. So at this point, we have an AI model running locally on our computer. Right now, it's just an LLM. I can connect with it through this chat interface here, and it will respond to me like any other chatbot. But the next step is going to be actually making this an AI agent. And the way we can do that is by using the OpenClaw framework. Now, in the past, there's been a couple of different ways to do this, but by far the simplest is just running one simple command with Ollama already open and installed, and it gets going right away. And that is this command. But don't type it in just yet. Don't type it in just yet. Just wait a second. Don't just copy and paste it, because if you copy and paste it, you're going to get the wrong model. This is what you're going to do. You're just going to go to your terminal and copy and paste this. Ollama launch OpenClaw -- model space, and then the name of the model that you downloaded. Remember how earlier the model I downloaded, because it had such little parameters, it was having difficulty with really simple questions? If you put the name of my model in here, it's going to mean that it may not be compatible because you chose a different model. So make sure, most important thing, that you take this Ollama launch OpenClaw -- model and you put this section at the end here with the name of your model. If you want to find that, all you have to do is go back again here. It should be the only model that is not one of the default ones here. It should be the one that's installed because it doesn't have a download icon. Qwen 3.5:0.8b. That is paramount to making sure this works. And at this point, it doesn't matter whether you're using Windows or you're using a Mac, you're going to get the same step-by-step walkthrough either way. Whether you're using Kimi K2.5 Cloud or Qwen 3.5, doesn't matter what model you're using. You're going to get the same thing. It's going to say OpenClaw is not installed. Install with npm, and you're going to select yes. Now, the biggest difference between doing this and just installing OpenClaw is that you actually have to tell OpenClaw that you want to connect it with Ollama. Whereas if you just use this one specific terminal command, all it has to do is just install OpenClaw, and just like that, you're ready to go. Because as soon as it's done running, it's going to start going immediately. It's going to say, wake up, my friend, I'm here, and what are we going to do, and what skills do you want to add? And just like that, you're going to have your AI agent automatically set up. Another way that you could do this is by going to the OpenClaw website and running this, but the main difference is if you do it this way, it's going to actually not know that Ollama is what you want to connect it with. And the model that you want to connect it with is the one that you've loaded into Ollama. Doing it this way through the OpenClaw website just means there's a lot more steps. Simply run the command, making sure that Ollama is open in the background, type in the name of the model that you actually chose. It's going to ask you to install OpenClaw, and then it's going to get going right away. And now we've connected the local AI LLM to a working version of OpenClaw on your system. Woohoo! So what next? Well, there's a couple of different ways we can actually communicate with OpenClaw. Now, there's a couple different things that we can set up either in the terminal directly, or we can actually open the web interface. Now, whether you choose to communicate with your AI model that's locally hosted on your computer, through OpenClaw, through the web interface, or through the terminal, that's entirely up to you. But OpenClaw gives it the ability to actually go and make decisions and do things just outside of Ollama. OpenClaw gives you the ability to chat through any of these different chat providers with all of these different AI models, with all of the different productivity tools, music, audio, everything you could possibly want, all of the main things that are actually connected. Taking this from an AI model that's hosted just locally on your computer to an AI model that can actually interact with the world. So at this point, you've now connected OpenClaw to your local LLM hosted in Ollama. So how do we actually communicate with it now? Well, we can either choose to use the web interface, which is a simple chat interface, or we can choose to continue to talk to it in the terminal. Either way, you're still going to be talking to it like a normal chatbot, but it has access to so many different things above what your local LLM has. Yes, your local LLM is the brain behind it, but it can actually work with a bunch of different integrations. Because even though the local source LLM that we downloaded and installed earlier was what actually powered OpenClaw, OpenClaw itself as a framework gives access to tons of different integrations, meaning you can chat with it through any of these platforms, meaning that you can connect all of these AI models, have all these productivity tools. This is what is actually the reason we installed OpenClaw. It's because it gives it the ability to go and do things outside of just being on your computer. And if you want to load your AI LLM up with even more skills, you can do that by going to the ClawHub, which is where people post the different skills that they've built so that you can download and put them onto your AI model. There are different ways that you could expand what your AI model is capable of. Just make sure you don't overload it too much. So at this point, you have now downloaded your local AI LLM. We never connected a credit card because we're not paying for any tokens. Everything is hosted locally on your computer. We showed you how to actually get it set up using Ollama. And once we had Ollama running in the background, we showed you the exact command to run for the specific AI model that you chose in order to get OpenClaw set up with it so your AI LLM can actually do things and communicate with the world and take actions. Now, all that's left for you to do is actually go and configure it. Try some skills out, connect it with some pieces of software that you like. Ask it to do things. This is the point where you can push the boundary and see exactly how your private AI LLM is going to work for you. And if in the future you want to swap to a different open source AI LLM, well, all you have to do is follow the same steps in this video. If you run the same commands in the same order, it's going to do everything much quicker because it's already going to know that OpenClaw is installed. It's going to connect it to the exact model that you want. The same steps are going to be pretty timeless. So the only question is now, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to build? What kind of skills are you going to equip your AI model with? Because you don't have to pay for any tokens. It's all hosted locally on your computer. And the best part is, if in the future you want to swap to a different open source model, you can follow the same steps in this video and it's going to be even quicker. Because if you run the same commands, it's going to already know when you have specific models installed, it's going to already know when you have OpenClaw installed, and it's going to connect much quicker. But it's going to work all the same. So the only question is now, what kind of skills are you going to equip your AI model with? Because in this case, sky is really the limit with the amount of integrations that are available through OpenClaw. So it's entirely up to you based on how beefy your computer is and how much access to your files and the cloud you actually want to give it. Well, your AI model is now yours to configure, yours to control, and entirely private and free. And there you go, your own AI agent through OpenClaw and Ollama hosted entirely for free. And there we go, your own private 24/7 AI agent running entirely on your computer, completely for free. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Josh Mountain, and I'm curious to see what you're going to do with your AI agent. I'll see you in the next one.